Hi, it's Julian Mellor from propergolfing.com. In this video I want to talk about what's on the other side, which may sound a silly question, but what's on the other side of change. So let's say that you have an issue with your backswing. We'll just throw that one in for a starter. You've got a real issue with your backswing. You think that you've tried everything and nothing seems to work, so you stick with what you know. Now, through my experience from how I used to swing the golf club to how I swing the golf club now, I had to go through a real period of change. But what I didn't know when I was going through it is what was on the other side of this change. And thankfully, for my own game, it was an incredible change for me. I was really able to swing the golf club much more efficiently. I was able to play golf without pain. I was able to hit the golf ball in a better direction far more consistently than I ever did the way I used to swing. But what a lot of people do when they're trying to change something, they might give it 3, 4, 5, 10 goes, 20 goes, and they go, this doesn't work. But what's actually happening is your brain's getting used to this change. It may throw your timing off, it may throw your rhythm off, but you won't necessarily benefit from that change straight away. It might take some practice. So let's say we've hit 15 shots and it doesn't quite feel right. Well, that's the beginning of the change. It's not the end of the change. Okay, it might take 300 shots, it might take 3,000 shots, but if you know there's a real benefit on the other side of making that change, then isn't it worth working on? So just before I explain the rest of this, if you're a beginner, if you're an intermediate golfer, or even a professional, if you really want to change your golf game, change your thinking, change your enjoyment of the game, you should be signing up to propergolfing.com. On there, once you become a member, you'll get instant access to the video library. You'll also get monthly coaching sessions with me, and you'll also get an invite to a weekly Zoom webinar that I host where we have golfers join from all over the world. They're absolutely brilliant. So if you are serious about your golf game, you do want to do it in a structured way within a community where you're going to get professional help from myself, then get signed up to propergolfing.com. So just carrying on with this video, I used to have a real issue with my backswing. What used to happen is I used to roll my forearms way too quickly, open the club face far too quickly on the backswing, and I then had to close it very quickly on the way down. And sometimes if I got it right, the shot would be lovely. But if I wasn't quite right, if my timing wasn't right, I could come in with the club face open or close it too much. I'd hit low snap hooks or high blocks, depending on the timing of the day. So what I had to do is really start to work on my takeaway. And the way that I found benefited me is I paid a lot of attention to the butt of the club and my hip, my left hip in my case. So what used to happen is as soon as I used to take the club back, the butt of the club was now pointing way outside my left hip. But if I started to turn correctly, I always felt that the butt of the club was still pointing at my left hip rather than moving away. So if I just show you this from the side, if I roll my forearms too quickly, the butt of the club's now pointing over here. This is when I was opening the club face and having to close it very quickly through impact. But once I started to really feel this lovely turn away, the butt of the club stayed much more towards my left hip. From there, it was easy for me to set the club correctly at the top of the backswing. Now, because I'd practiced this for such a long time, and we're talking years now, not just hours, literally years of rolling my forearms, it took me a little bit of time to change. But the benefit of that practice, of that, I'm going to say dedication to making that change, was unbelievable. I could suddenly start to hit the golf ball further, more reliable, and in my case, much more towards my target. Rather than right trees, low left into trouble, I could actually start to flight the golf ball where I wanted it to go. So the benefit of that change for me is I was able to get around the golf course so much easier. I wasn't fighting those tee shots that I used to when I was playing in tournament golf. So if you've got an issue with your golf swing, don't just give up after 5 or 10 golf swings or 20 golf swings or a bucket of golf balls. Oh, that didn't work. Well, how do you know it didn't work unless you give it enough time? So there's always different ways of changing the same thing. There's loads of ways that I used to think about taking the club back. The one that benefited me the most was the awareness of the butt of the club and my left hip. But if you've got any issues, there's so much information out there, and I'd like to think I've put an awful lot of information out there on YouTube and certainly on propergolfing.com. But don't just give up after a few goes. See what's on the other side of that change. You could be a completely different golfer if you give it a chance and really dedicate some time to making that change. So I hope this has sparked a little bit of thought, a little bit of interest. Get out there, get out and practice it, and I'm certain it's going to make a big difference to your golf game.